Sige, go. Heart na? Hello and good morning po, Madayaw, Davao Oriental, at welcome po sa series of webinar natin for mental health and wellness. But before that po, I would like to introduce to you po sa co-host ko for the day, si Dr. Kim Luzon. Hello, Doc. Kamusta po?
Hi, Sir Mac. Good morning and welcome to all our
Yes.
viewers. So, this is officially our kickoff for Health and Nutrition Wellness Month. So, for the whole month of May, we prepared a series of activities for our SDO personnel in the entire Davao Oriental. So, for this month, Sir Mac, our theme for our Wellness Month is malinaw na kaisipan, malusog na pangangatawan, one step ahead sa gitna ng pandemya. And take note, one is an acronym. So it stands for overcoming the new normal through empowerment.
Yes, tama ka doon, Doc, no? But before natin i-discuss or i-present lahat po kung ano ba yung nilalaman ng webinar natin ngayon, let's have a prayer to be followed by the singing of our national anthem.
O magbabayan, ikaw yang gainan, sing pulong ang pagawanan, yang guwag na tagalan na kanami malagon o magpabaya, ikaw yang tigpaningon yang kanami mga piangamuyo demalang yagabaya di pupuan kami ng kadayada mo. Agang wanininin dadamo bunga ng paguma nagyabati daw bata yanin ka namin kapasaya ka mo kalipay namin yung panabi-sabi sa pangalan mo. o magbabaya. Ikaw, yang yagatubang singka nami mga panawag-tawag sang kadyawan, ikaw yagata. Salamat o kadinayag mga sangawa.
Ayan. So again po, Madayaw, good morning po sa lahat ng mga nanonood ngayon via the official page of the Division of Davao Oriental Facebook page at sa YouTube or official YouTube channel po ng Division of Davao Oriental. Muli po, good morning and welcome po sa series of webinar natin para sa wellness and mental health. And for this time around, before we start, kung ano ba itong gagawin natin for the whole or half day no of our webinar regarding mental health kasi it's really important to discuss mental health nowadays na minsan hindi siya nabibigyan ng pansin but this is really important no to discuss it kung ano ba itong mga nararamdaman natin patungkol sa nangyayari or currently happening right now which is the pandemic no but before that let's listen to a opening message from the SGDO Chief of the Division of Davao Oriental, Chief Ernesto Cabanes.
Good morning to everyone. My courtesy to our beloved Schools Division Superintendent, Mr. Ronaldo B. Meliorida. Well, of course, our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Maria Genevieve T. Francis KT, our Chief of the Curriculum and Implementation Division, Dr. Esther Jean U. Pilayo, our Health and Nutrition personnel under the School Governance and Operations Division, headed by, of course, our Medical Officer 3, Dr. Kimberly Luzon, the focal person of these activities this morning. And my special respect to our speaker this morning, Dr. Clint Rodney M. De Lima, our psychologist, who will be speaking to us this morning event. And to all the participants of this virtual kickoff of the Wellness Month celebration, a pleasant morning to everyone. Well, first of all, my sincerest thanks to our health and nutrition personnel for having this activity as we are mandated through Memorandum Number 112 entitled Wellness Month Physical and Mental Resilience kick-off program this month of May 2021. Well, this is very important because, as we all know, that we are facing this threat under pandemic this time, and I know everyone is very uh, we call this one we have so many problems that we are facing today, especially that we don't have face-to-face learning, wherein our teachers, we are also mandated to make our modules to be distributed to our students, no? um, not only for those modules that we are going to receive from the central office, but we are also tasked to make some activities that will be given to our students. So a lot of problem that we are facing this time because of our situation that we are facing this new normal because of COVID-19. However, it will not hinder us, of course, to deliver our services to our clientele, our students. So, with so many problems that we are encountering, well, of course, I am thankful to our teachers that they have this coping mechanism in order to cope with the problem, to solve with the problem that we are facing nowadays. So we could not be it could not be avoided that some of us are stressed. No, when we talk of wellness program, for me, it's only not talking about mental health and physical health, but also include spiritual aspect of our life. Now, with this problem that we are facing nowadays because of pandemic, I know some of you, if not all, are facing stress because of so many things that we are going to cope up, especially in the submission of our reports, distribution of our modules, looking into the problem of our students and how can we help them solve their problem, because our modules, this is a self-learning guide, no, with the help of the parents, of course. They have to study the modules by themselves and with the guidance of the parents. So but it is quite different compared to the face-to-face learning that we used to have before before this pandemic. No, so a lot of things that sometimes our teachers will cause them to feel stress, anxiety. No, and this is the right time for us that we need to do something. That is why we are having this kick-off of our wellness program to ease the problem, to solve, if to minimize, if not really eradicate, stress that our teachers are encountering nowadays. But I believe it can help, no, so to solve problem, especially talking about mental. Now, physical is very also important, no, because we need to be physically fit. As we all know, we could not see the virus, but we need to strengthen our immune system. No? So with this wellness program, of course, we have a speaker, the person of Clint Rudney and M. De Lima, our psychologists. They can help us a lot. How are we going to cope with this situation that we're facing nowadays? Now, health is very important because we will if we are sick, well, of course, we could not perform the tasks that are given to us, no, by the Department of Education, especially in the delivery of education services to our students. Well, of course, though it is not included in the memorandum, but I believe that wellness program will not talk only on the mental and physical aspect of a person, but above all things, it talks about also the spiritual. We need to have faith, no, that faith that is coming from Him, our sovereign Lord, no, because He said in His Word, apart from me, you can do nothing. The virus cannot be seen by everyone. Well, of course, it is only God who sees everything because nothing can be hidden from Him. And we need to have faith that God will protect us. No, we need to have faith that God is our refuge, our strength, and ever help. No, that apart from Him we can do nothing. So today, of course, with the expertise of Dr. Clint Rodney de Lima, we will be enlightened. We will He can help us on how are we going to cope with so many problems or the stress that that we are encountering nowadays because of this pandemic. So I would like to thank, of course, our health and nutrition section headed by Dr. Kim Luzon, and of course our uh, PDRRM2, no, our PDO2 in the person of Mr. Mark Cobero of the division for initiating this virtual kick-off orientation in relation to the Wellness Month celebration um, this month of May 2021. So to everyone, I hope that you will keep on listening on the different speakers that will be talking this morning, and I hope that God will give us the wisdom to discern things and give us the understanding on what we are going to do, especially in our situation today. So to everyone, good morning and mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Ayan, so again po, thank you, Chief Ernesto Cabanes, for that message. Indeed talaga, especially right now, na ongoing pa rin itong pandemic na na-experience natin, no? Di talaga natin maiwasan na isipin yung mga bagay na natatakot tayo, alam mo yun? At isa sa mga bagay talaga na dapat nating gawin is yung paano ba ano ba yung mga bagay na pwede nating or i-management na pwede nating gawin to address some circumstances when it comes to our wellness, particularly our mental health. Na minsan kasi hindi nade-discuss or hindi siya nagiging topic talaga or iniiwasan siya because of some issues and concerns na iniisip na pag once may mental health issues ka, iba yung dating, di ba? But right now, we are so happy and thankful because as part of the wellness no month na program po natin sa health section together with DRRM, we are glad na may makakasama tayo later no para to discuss about mental wellness or mental health. But before that, I would like to say hi to all our 162 viewers and I hope tataas pa yan no sa platform po ng ating Facebook account, the official Facebook account. You can also catch us po sa YouTube account po ng official YouTube account channel po ng Division of Davao Oriental. Yes, Doc, do you have any before we start, Doc, for the formal activity po talaga natin, do you have any message po, Doc Luzon?
Yes, sir, ma'am. I agree with Sir Ernie.
Yes,
Because
totoo.
as a physician myself, sometimes we just focus on our physical health.
Yes,
Sometimes,
totoo.
did you know that the overall health ay composed na 80% mental health,
Wow.
psychological. So,
Okay,
so it's really
yes, Doc.
important to address yung mga psychological mental health problems.
So
So
that's
that's
why
why
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
use
use
this as
it
an
as an
avenue
avenue
to
to
break
break
the
the
stigma
stigma
Totoo.
about
mental
mental
health.
health. And we're very fortunate to have a professional as
As
our
our
guest
guest
speaker
speaker
for
for
today.
today.
Yes, tama ka,
So
Doc.
So
I hope
I
that
hope that
our
our
viewers will use it
viewers
as
will
an
use this as
opportunity
an
para
opportunity para
to raise
to raise
questions so
questions
that a professional
so that
practitioner will be the
a
one answering your
professional
concern.
practitioner will be
Yes.
the one answering.
Thank you, Doc, for that, ano, for background on mental health. And again po, sa lahat ng viewers po natin, you can type the link below for the attendance for this webinar. And also, you can catch us po sa official page po ng Division of Davao Oriental sa Facebook page po and sa YouTube account po ng Division of Davao Oriental. But before we start po talaga formally and introduce our speaker, may mga sasabihin po kami na importante because later before we end our activity or before we end our webinar, we will have somehow question and answer portion at the same time we will have a parang games, no? Na itong games na to meron tayong prize. Kaya i-invite ko lahat ng 162 viewers right now na nasa YouTube at nasa Facebook account ng Division of Davao Oriental na later, before tayo magtatapos, meron tayong question and answer portion wherein we will give you 3 questions and na regarding sa webinar na gagawin natin ngayon. And those question, merong katumbas na prize. So what are those prize? Later, sasabihin namin kung ano yung mga prizes na at stake doon sa game natin. Di ba, Doc?
Yes, we have prepared prizes for you. And
not
not
just
just
today,
today, but
but
for
for
the
the
rest
rest
of
of
the
the
month.
month.
Because
Because
like
like
I
I
said,
said,
this
this
is the
the
entire
entire
month of
Month of
May
May
will
will
be
be
the wellness month for the Division
the
of Davao
wellness month
Oriental.
for the
So
Division
this
of Davao
mental
Oriental.
health
So
forum
it's the
will
kick-off
be
program
the
lang,
kick-off
but
program lang. But
for the
for the
rest of
rest
the
of the
month,
month,
we
we
have
have
prepared
prepared
other
other
programs
programs
for our
for our
teaching and
teaching and
non-teaching
non-teaching
personnel.
personnel.
Wow. Okay, so before i-introduce ni Dr. Luzon yung ating special guest for today, if you have any questions po regarding sa topic na i-discuss o i-represent ng guest speaker natin, you can type your questions doon sa chat box po natin sa baba so we can address that later during sa question and answer portion po natin sa webinar. Okay? Klaro ba yon? And don't forget our game later. So, yun, meron tayong prize po doon. Huwag natin kalimutan. We will have an amazing, exciting prize at stake to the questions na ito-throw namin later before matapos ang ating webinar. To formally open and introduce our guest speaker, I will give the honor to Dr. Lason. Doc.
Okay, thank you, Sir Mac. So again, the attendance for our activity will be posted I have the honor to introduce our guest speaker for today. So he is currently the psychologist 2 of Davao Regional Medical Center in Tagum City and a part-time instructor at the University of Mindanao, Tagum. Um, he is also a lecturer in abdominal surgery at Doctors College. Currently, he is finishing his PhD in psychology, major in clinical psychology at Ateneo de Davao University. He has a Master's of Science in Psychology, major in clinical psychology from San Pedro College. And he also got his bachelor's degree in psychology. He is a registered psychometrician and a registered psychologist and a member of the Psychological Association of the Philippines and a member of the International Society on Psychology, Counseling, and Education. So, ladies and gentlemen, Clint Rodney M. De Lima, RPM, MSci, RSci.
So, hi,
Sir
thank you for that
Clint.
introduction, Dr. Luzon. It's nice to see you again. And Sir Mark, Sir MC, thank you for that. For also introducing me. And ayun, so again, it's very timely, no, to discuss mental health in this time of the pandemic or in this time of the COVID-19 because we also want to know how the pandemic has changed the landscape of mental health nowadays because now we see that there is a more clamor, what we call a more spotlight is shown on mental health because we can also equate it now with physical health, because if we do not take care of our mental health, our physical health and other aspects um, of our individualities are affected. So how do we take care, or how do we yes, how do we take care of our mental health in this time of pandemic, and how has the people adjusted in this new normal? So I will be sharing my presentation. So yeah, so mental health in the new normal. So how important is it nowadays that we talk or we discuss about mental health, and how do we take care of it, and how do we build on it as individuals who might have problems or concerns or issues about our mental health, and how do we fare in this new normal or in this time of the pandemic? So firstly, I would also want to ask or confirm or also check if how what do we know about the COVID-19 virus or the pandemic. So firstly, where did it originate? Where did it come from? What country was the first one to be affected? So we know it came from Wuhan, China, right? And then of course, what are the symptoms of the virus? So mostly we feel flu-like symptoms or influenza-like symptoms, and once we feel na ganun yung pakiramdam natin, we tend to panic, or we tend to associate with the virus. So it may cause more feelings of anxiety, fear, and the only thing that we know that can confirm if we have the virus or not is getting swabbed or being tested for the virus. So sometimes we overthink na kung ano yung nararamdaman natin or what we experience physically might be related to the virus, but we cannot fully confirm it unless we get swabbed or we get tested for the virus. So if we do feel some things like that, maybe we can address it through medicine muna or medication, and then if it persists, then maybe we can go to our hospitals and then get swabbed and then confirm if we do have the virus. And then what are the different variants of the COVID-19 and what countries are affected? I think it's worldwide naman, no? Most countries are affected. And what is our government doing to prevent the spread of this outbreak? So what ideas do we have when it comes to the government in preventing or in helping people recover from the virus? And what is your local agency doing, or local government unit or agency doing to prevent the spread of this outbreak? And then, of course, what vaccines are available in the Philippines already? So I guess we have Sinovac and AstraZeneca, and then ano naman, in our hospital, we had our first rollout of the vaccination already. So if we talk about the variants of COVID, I think there are six variants of concern that we need to look into, so that we could also see, or we could also be informed about what should be what could be our idea, or how we can also measure our reactions towards the variants that we know of. So we have the UK variant, or the B.1.1.7. This is 70% more transmissible, 60% more deadly, and vaccines are still effective. So if you do have the vaccine, so you can be protected from the virus and unlikely to reinfect people who already had COVID. And then we also have the South Africa variant, or the B.1.351, which is less transmissible than the UK variant and unknown if it causes more severe disease. Some vaccines are less effective and may be able to reinfect people who already had COVID. And then we also have the Brazil variant, believed to be more transmissible, but more research needed. Unknown if it causes more severe disease, and the vaccine efficacy is unknown and believed to reinfect people who already also had COVID. And then we have the California variant, which is 20% more transmissible, and just like the previous variants, they may cause severe diseases, but more researches are still needed. vaccines are still likely effective, and unknown if it can reinfect people who already had COVID. And then we have other two variants, the New York variants and also the Brazil variant, P2 or part 2. So, discussing those things about the pandemic, about about COVID-19, about its effect on our physical health, I would also like to know if the pandemic is affecting us emotionally, and how is it translating, or how is it affecting our work, and are we still functional when it comes to our work? Kasi nga, sometimes when we wake up, initially we condition our minds. We think about, yes, I go to work because I have to um, cater to my students. I have to take care of my family. So those are some of the motivations that we use whenever we wake up, we go to work. But then we have this other factor or other variable that is making us somewhat hesitant or somewhat anxious when we go outside or when we talk to other people, which is the pandemic or which is the virus. So it may be affecting us physically, it may be affecting us emotionally, and am I still giving the quality? Am I still producing the right amount of work that I am expected to produce? Am I still able to teach my students? Am I still able to talk to my colleagues? Am I still able to relate to my talk to my family members? So those are some of the things that need to look into and check if this might be because of the pandemic. So how is it how is it affecting us, and how can we try to cope with the pandemic? We will be discussing that later. So of course, we can expect that in this time of pandemic, there is crisis. Okay, there is this abnormal situations wherein we are not used to. Di tayo sanay that there is yearly, parang hindi naman siya parang bagyo that we experience it almost monthly, yearly may bagyo talaga. A pandemic is somewhat, it can happen in 100 years, it can happen in 1,000 years, di ba? So normally, what we feel towards a situation that is not, that is abnormal. Sometimes we feel panicky, sometimes we are fearful, sometimes we are afraid, and those are what we call normal emotions in a abnormal situations. And yes, it is okay to feel those things. Hindi natin kailangan i-instill sa mind natin that I have to be strong. I have to be strong all the time because if I'm not strong, then people will see me as weak. We do not have to have those ideas muna. Kasi nga, we are in a time where crisis is literally everywhere. Hindi na lang siya sa work, but we have this specific crisis where hindi natin siya nakikita, di ba? Which is the virus. So we are not ready yet to face that kasi nga hindi naman tayo prepared. We are not given the instructions on how to face this kind of pandemic yet. So, di ba, in the earlier months, we feel na whenever we go outside, kailangan talaga ma-feel natin na we have to be more cautious, we have to be more careful kasi nga we do not know where the virus can come from. And those are the things that slowly we try to cope, or we slowly try to practice na umabot na tayo sa 2021. So again, what we feel towards a certain situation or a certain event, and it depends on how we react to it. But then in this critical situation, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, the feelings of being stressed, being anxious, being fearful, being afraid, those are normal emotions, and those are normal reactions. And you do not have to be apologetic because you feel those things. So normal lang talaga siya. We do not have to keep on thinking na ito yung kailangan talaga na dapat ito yung ipakita natin, na kailangan strong tayo, the emotions that we have to show towards other people is very sturdy, pero kailangan talaga natin that we also have to acknowledge that if we are afraid, if we are stressed out, if we are on the verge of burnout, most especially, we have to acknowledge those emotions. Because if we do not acknowledge those emotions, hindi natin siya mahahanapan ng paraan on how we can cope with those certain emotions. And of course, in this time of the COVID-19, we always feel na we're burned out, we're on the verge of a breakdown, and it always starts with something aversive or something that an emotion that we constantly feel, yes, but sometimes we forget to cope with it, or sometimes we forget to adjust to whatever the situation is making us feel. And sometimes that emotion is stress. Diba? We always use the word stress kasi nga, we do some things, and on top of those things there are these emotions, or there are these situations that cause parang hindi naman tayo ready for that to face, but then we have to face that. So the product of those mixtures of responsibilities that we have to face at work, and then coupled with other issues that could lead to stress. And then we call stress, or we define stress as an elevation in a person's state of arousal or readiness caused by some stimulus or demand. And it is a physiological response to fear of death or serious harm to oneself or someone you care about. So we have to take note that when we talk about stress, it's not only psychological, diba? It's also um, physiological. So kung ano yung nararamdaman natin internally, it can also be exhibited externally. So kung stressed out tayo, what we experience sometimes, we get headaches, okay? We get kanang ato ang ano na mukaon, magsigila atong appetite ay grabe ka grabe kay takagutom. So those are some of the implications of stress. So when we talk about stress, what could be its effect on our emotional or physical and behavioral states? So some of the common behavioral reactions towards stress is increase or decrease in activity level, substance use or abuse, which entails alcohol or drugs. So sometimes this is what is parang ginagawa natin to cope with the stressful situation. However, we classify this as an unhealthy coping mechanism. Kasi once we turn to substances such as alcohol or drugs, we have the tendency to develop addiction. So the more we rely on these substances, the more long-term effects we might get from relying on these substances. So for example, if you rely on alcohol whenever you feel stressed out, there is a tendency that you might develop alcoholism. When you drug dependency, diba? So we have to, whenever we try to go or turn to substances as our coping mechanisms, we also need to control how we use them, or the intake of these substances, in order to avoid these long-term adverse effects. And then we also have difficulty in communicating or listening. So sometimes we get irritated, diba? Parang whenever a person talks, or whenever a person wants us to listen, we do not have that certain focus. So that could be a sign that a person is under stress or distress. Then irritability, outbursts of anger, frequent arguments. So if you notice that someone in your workplace or a student might have these behavioral reaction, there is a possibility that something is stressing him out, or he is under distress or a crisis. So we have to take note of these things. And then inability to rest or relax, decline in academic performance or absenteeism. Also in students, we also have to take note of this. An example could be a child is very is good in his academics. However, there was a point in bumaba yung grades niya. So that could be a sign that the person is feeling something that feeling na hindi siya on his maximum or optimal level. So we also have to look into this aspect, or look into the student's performance, because as part of being an educator, or part of being a healthcare provider, we also have to take note of this, because we also have to discover kung saan ba nanggagaling yung stressors ng isang estudyante natin. And then frequent crying, and others could be other symptoms that we can relate to stress can also be taken into consideration. And what could be some of the common physical reactions? So again, stress is not only psychological; it can also be physiological. So some of the implications, or what one could exhibit when it comes to physical reactions: gastrointestinal problems, headaches, other aches and pains, visual disturbances, weight loss or gain, sweating or chills, tremors or muscle twitching, being easily startled, chronic fatigue or sleep disturbances, and immune system disorders. So one thing that we have to take note, when a person is having trouble sleeping, or dili jud siya ingon na dali makatulog, dili dayon makatulog, or iya putol-putol iyang tulog, or sometimes sobraan ang tulog, that could be a signal that a person might be experiencing something distressing. So kailangan talaga natin, we have to establish the cause, we have to discover what is causing the sleep disturbances or other physical reactions for us to also be able to know what we can do about it. And then what could be some of the common psychological or emotional reactions? So one, feeling heroic, euphoric, or invulnerable because of what yun nga, about what I've mentioned kanina. Sometimes we tend to condition our minds that we need to be strong. We need to face this head on. Kailangan malakas talaga tayo because if we do not um, try to emulate that facade na we're strong, people will see us as weak, and sometimes we do not want other people to see that. So the byproduct of that is you feel you're very invincible. Walang makakagalaw sa iyo. Okay, so that can be an signal that a person is under stress. Okay, one is also denial, anxiety or fear can also be parang reaction, depression, guilt, apathy, and grief. So those are some of the emotional reactions that we can see from people who are under stress. Then from that or from those reactions, what could be its implication when it comes to our thinking and socializations? So when it comes to thinking, it can cause memory problems, disorientation and confusion, slow thought processes, difficulty setting priorities or making decisions, and loss of objectivity. So once a person is under stress, sometimes the thinking process is affected. One cannot make sound decisions. One cannot make good decisions. So whenever we feel we are not at our optimum level in making these decisions, passing judgments, or kung ano pa ba, we need to take a step back and then figure out how do we address this current predicament that we have. Kasi kung hindi naman tayo capable in making these decisions at this moment, then we can maybe postpone it until we reach a period or a time in our day or in our week na pwede na natin gawin, or we can address whatever we have to address in our work. Then we have social implications also. We have isolation, we have blaming, difficulty in giving or accepting support for help, and the inability to experience pleasure or have fun. So now we have discussed what are some of the reactions or behavioral parang signals and what we could identify if a person is under stress, distress. He might be anxious, he might be afraid. So how can we try to at least find the ways in order to address whatever is being felt at the moment? But before that, we can also we can discuss what are some of the overall reactions to the pandemic. So for the survey conducted by the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, they had surveyed 562 people aged 18 and older. So these are some of their parang coping mechanisms or reactions to the pandemic. So the responses indicate that depression and anxiety are common and that people are coping with these issues in a range of ways. So it depends on how the person reacts to the situation. So what we do when we cope is not true to all. It can be different from person to person. So that is why we also need to learn, or we also need to know kung ano ba yung ways natin ng coping. And then overall, 1 in 4 survey respondents knew someone who had been tested for the virus, and 1 in 9 knew someone with a positive diagnosis. A little more than half of those surveyed, at 54%, said that their lives had been significantly disrupted by COVID-19. And most of the words that they used in describing how they feel in light of the pandemic, they were anxious, nervous, scared, stressed, and uncertain. So these were the top 5 words that came out of the survey. And then personal concerns expressed in the survey were more economic than medical in nature. So 47 of respondents were worried that they could not afford to pay their bills because some have been laid off from their jobs, or some have been fired, or some businesses have been closed. And then 53% were worried that their finances would run out altogether. So despite being ready for financially ready for a certain years after working, still the pandemic had also got us worried about our finances. Kasi nga, some of the respondents in this survey, they didn't have jobs. They were parang their businesses were closed, and some have been removed from their jobs. So some of the respondents were worried about their financial situations. And the overall reaction to the pandemic, we also have to discuss coping strategies. So when we talk about coping strategies in the view of this survey, we have positive and negative coping. So when we talk about positive coping, these were the respondents who saw the positive side of the pandemic, and in negative coping, the ones who were thinking na, bahala na ni, let it be kung sa may mahitabo. So those are some of the parang thinking or thought processes a person had when we talk about negative coping in the survey. So as many of 89% of the participants reported positive responses, such as taking action to make the situation better. So they were proactive in looking for ways in how to make light or how to survive in this situation, in this pandemic, with 77 seeking out comfort and understanding from another person. Likewise, 84% of the respondents said that they invested time in being more productive, while 48% prayed or meditated to feel better. On the other hand, 68% reported simply joking about the situation. They were not taking the situation seriously. 57% said that they made fun of it, and 47% turned their concerns into criticism of their own responses to the pandemic. And the respondents also reported various forms of denial. And alcohol and marijuana use occupied a separate section of the survey, and a significant number of respondents reported using these substances to feel better. So they had been using alcohol more, and 14, about 1 in 7, said that they were using marijuana more. And then, when it comes to the sources of support, a romantic partner emerged one of the top answers, or it is the top answer of the survey. 71% of participants said that they were experiencing more emotional closeness with their partner due to the pandemic, while 58% reported more physical closeness. And then, however, almost 1 in 5 participants reported having more disagreements than usual with their partner during the pandemic. 15% reported an increase in verbal arguments, 2% reported more physical altercations, and 22% reported disagreement about the new coronavirus. So, one thing that we can summarize, or one thing that we can take away from this survey, is that people are equipped to cope. Okay, so people have the skills, have the abilities to cope on their own. However, when it comes to coping, or when it comes to let's say moving on, sometimes people make choices that they think is beneficial for them. So again, it is a proactive choice. People have to consciously choose how to respond to a certain situation. You do not have to be parang magulat lang ta kung unsa man ang moabot, magulat lang ta kung unsa may naa. But we have to consciously, we have to be proactive in looking for ways on how to cope. Kasi as what I've mentioned, it is innate already. Naana na sa tuwa. But we just have to choose on whether we have to be positive when it comes to coping, or do we have to have a negative disposition when it comes to coping. And then in a study that was conducted by some Filipino students from the St. Louis University in Baguio, the study entitled Reactions or Behavioral Practices and Coping Mechanisms of Filipinos in Luzon, Philippines during the lockdown due to COVID-19. So here are some of their reactions, which can be also classified as positive behavioral practices. So following mandates by the Department of Health, which includes frequent hand washing, social distancing, wearing of face masks or face shields. And then by following these mandates, they have a certain assurance that when they go out or when they have to, yes, go out of their homes, they are given a certain reassurance that they can be safe or they can be safe from the virus. And then relaxation activities such as yoga and meditation, this can help. Also, taking breaks from watching or reading or listening to news about COVID 19. And then talking to people about their concern and worries. Creating some fun moments with family members. Kasi nga, families yung kasama natin when we were in lockdown. And reading books or watching shows that make one happy. So we can see again that the responses made from this study or research, they were proactive or they were very conscious in looking for ways on how to take care of their mental health. So we have discussed or we have covered some of the things about about COVID-19, how it affects our physical, mental, and other aspects, behavioral, of course. But then, how can we take care of our mind, or how do we take care of our mental health in this time of the pandemic, where we do not know kung kailan ba siya matatapos. We do not know until when do we have to stay at home, when do we have to wear, until when do we have to wear masks and face shields. So from those questions, we go to the point in our lecture where we can find ways or we can at least suggest ways where we can take care of our mental health. So in the presentation of the World Health Organization, what could be the things that you can do when you can where you can take care of your mental health and psychosocial aspects of your lives. So one, it's all right to feel pressured, anxious, and stressed. Again, these are normal feelings in times of crisis. So we do not have to deny ourselves or emotions na ganito yung nararamdaman natin. It's okay to feel pressured, it's okay to feel anxious, it's okay to feel stressed. Because if you acknowledge or if you tell yourself na, okay, ganito yung nararamdaman ko, then we can, again, look for ways on how we can address these emotions. And then take care of yourself at this time. So alagaan talaga natin ang sarili natin. We have to eat healthy. We have to still be active, physically active. So we have to exercise. So even if hindi tayo pwede lumabas sa mga bahay natin, or we can just take care of ourselves within our home. So di ba yun nga, we can eat healthy. We can just try to exercise within the spaces of our home so that we can still take care of ourselves. And then don't forget to connect with your loved ones. It is important that despite having, let's say, your lockdown ka sa ibang country and then your family is in some other country, we do not have to parang forget that these people are there to take care of us, to support us whenever we feel na kailangan natin ng support natin. And it doesn't have to mean na families ng talaga natin, but we have to also connect to our friends, to our the community that we created for ourselves, so that we can feel that we can still feel that people are there to take care of us despite the distance and despite the pandemic. And then share messages clearly. Kailangan talaga when it comes to communication at this time, we have to be clear, we have to be precise, because we cannot afford na our messages will be distorted or hindi maintindihan. So kailangan talaga na we have to be direct, concise, and clear when it comes to delivering our messages. And our avoid chronic stress and poor mental health. So alam naman natin na ito yung nagpapastress sa atin. So as much as possible, we have to consciously remove ourselves from that situation in order for us to take care of our mental health. So kailangan talaga ma-identify natin kung ano yung nagkakos sa atin ng stress or distress or pressure, anxious or fear, so that we can also know what ways or options we can do in order for us to take care of our mental health. And then quality communication is necessary, and mental health and psychosocial support services. There are numbers that we can call. There are agencies that we can ask for help, which I will be discussing later, and seek help when needed. So kung na-overwhelm na tayo, hindi na natin kaya yung nangyayari sa paligid natin, when we know that there is help available, and then you are willing to seek for help, then you can do that. Kasi it starts with reaching out naman to mental health professionals or to other professionals, or not necessarily mga psychologists, but people who are willing to help you when you find yourself needing help. Okay, so those are some of the things that the World Health Organization has shared. But then in the sa Philippine Council for Mental Health, they have also released some of mental health and psychosocial support during the COVID-19 outbreak. How can we promote psychosocial well-being in everyone? So firstly, again, recognize that crisis occurs when sudden and or adverse circumstances affect a person's ordinary life. So kailangan talaga natin i-identify kung ano yung nagkakos sa atin ng crisis so that we can do again something about it. And it's okay not to feel okay. So we have to realize that these are emotions. Tao tayo, we are given emotions to feel. So we do not have to inhibit ourselves in feeling these emotions. Kasi the more that we inhibit these emotions, the more we might cope adversely to it. So unhealthy na yung mga coping mechanisms natin. So the more that we acknowledge our emotions, the more that we can figure out how to deal with them. And then engage in health activities that you enjoy and find relaxing. Again, coping can be a conscious or a proactive choice. So we have to look for ways where we can relax ourselves whenever we feel na kailangan natin mag-relax. So if we find joy in reading, if we find joy in streaming Netflix, then we can do that so that we can just take care of our mental health. And then facts minimize fear. So these are some of the or this is some of the issue na kailangan din natin i-address because we are very glued to our social media nowadays. We take time in scrolling, we take time in reading news na babasa natin sa Facebook. And the more that we believe those news that we see, or the more that we believe what we read in Facebook or any other social media platforms, the more na it can cause fear, the more it can cause anxiety sa atin. So the more that we have, kumbaga, the lesser we know, parang the lesser that we, or the more grave yung reactions natin. So what we can do is that read reputable sources. If we read news, kailangan talaga natin na we have to verify or validate kung ano ba yung mga nababasa natin, totoo ba talaga siya, or the sources coming from legit na mga agencies. Kasi kung hindi naman, like mga nababasa lang natin na parang nakalagay lang na copy and paste, di ba? So that can add to whatever fear we already have. So the more na i-deny natin yung sarili natin of emotions. So what we can do again is verify and then confirm kung totoo ba yung mga nababasa natin. And then if we have some people who are working in an agency, like for example in a hospital or in sa DOH, let's say, then you can ask them, totoo ba yung mga lumalabas sa Facebook, tama ba ni nakani ba ang nahitabo? So if they can help inform you, then that's better. So try to be more informed or gain more information about what is happening rather than rely on what we read on social media because it can be very distorted or it can be very misleading. So basahin natin kung ano yung mga parang sources of information that we can read so that it can add to whatever we know and then confirm or validate or deny whatever we also know about what is happening. And then draw on the skills that have helped in the past to manage previous crises or adversities and use these skills to manage this present one. So, as what I've mentioned, we are given the parang ability or skills to cope, diba? And then sometimes we might have encountered similar situations in the past where we might have used those skills or those coping mechanisms. So kung makita natin na this time is not different from those past experiences, so we can use those skills that have helped us in coping from those past experiences, so that we already know what we can do, and then if we can still discover some of the things that we can do in light of what we know or what we knew from the past. And then shift perspectives away from number of deaths toward number of recoveries. So sometimes we focus on the negatives rather than the positives. So kung, for example, may na-publish na news about how many cases have been reported during this day nationally, and di ba included naman doon yung mga number of deaths na have happened within the country. So if we try to look at the number of recoveries instead of the deaths, that can be very refreshing on our part. Kasi we do not have to focus on what is parang negative in the situation, but allows us to look at other perspectives that could happen from this pandemic. What are other positive perspectives that we can gather from what is happening around us? And then of course, words do matter. So kung ano yung mga sinasabi natin, what we say on social media, what we say to other people, what we say towards our families, those matter nowadays. So kung ano yung mga sasabihin natin, we really have to be careful. We have to consider what we have to say, what we have to talk about, what we have to relate to these people. Kasi kung ano yung sasabihin natin, it can cause panic, it can cause anxiety, it can cause a lot of adverse effects, lalo na kung hindi natin nasasabi ng maayos yung mga dapat nating sabihin. So we have to be concise, we have to be careful in how we talk or how we convey our ideas or how we communicate towards other people. And then, so as frontline workers, how can we also promote psychosocial well-being among these people who are facing or who are handling the pandemic firsthand? So frontliners should be allowed to express their fears and apprehensions. So, syempre sila yung nag-handle ng COVID or they're handling the virus firsthand. So they also have fear, they also have apprehensions. It doesn't mean na sila yung nasa frontline, they are immune, they are strong, they are very well versed when it comes to handling the situation. They still have fears and they still have the anxiety kasi nga tao lang din sila. And then sometimes even if we know na alam naman natin kung ano yung mga pwede nating gawin, but still we do not really know what can happen when we are in the real situation na. So allow them to express, allow them to acknowledge their emotions so that once they are relieved of those negative emotions, they can fully function and do their jobs as frontliners. And then recognizing their hard work during this crisis is important. Kailangan talaga that we recognize how they are doing, how they are handling their work or their responsibilities during this crisis. And frontliners need to be given time to take care of their own basic needs too. So kailangan na give them time to have breaks or day offs so that they can recuperate and then relax and also take care of themselves. Kasi nga, as also a frontliner or a healthcare professional, you cannot give what you cannot have. Diba? So as much as we want to keep on giving, but we just have a finite arsenal of resources. Limited lang yung pwede natin ibigay. So if we constantly give and give, but then we do not also give time to ourselves to relax, to take a break, to recuperate. So wala natin maibibigay sa mga taong kailangan ng tulong natin. So as much as possible, we also have to take note that we have to relax, we have to take care of ourselves before we do our jobs as frontliners. And then, they can be subjected to stigma due to the nature of their work at this time, notwithstanding their possible exposure to the virus itself. So dun sa mga news na basa natin dati that people would parang discriminate people, frontliners. So we have to erase or we have to remove our ideas or the stigma surrounding that kasi nga hindi lang naman confined sa hospital virus. It is around us now. So kailangan na we do not have to discriminate people who are working with the virus or amidst the pandemic kasi sila lang yung exposed sa virus. A lot of us have been exposed to the virus na hindi naman nagtatrabaho sa hospital. Right? So you also have to take note of that. And then find time to reflect. So this can be an activity that we can give to our frontliners so that they can also recognize their feelings, their emotions, and look at what is being what is being experienced in this pandemic or how they are taking care of themselves, how they are taking care of their patients, and how they are taking of their students as well. And then encourage them to accept help or seek for help. Again, when we have available services naman in our agencies, in the Department of Education, so encourage them to accept help or inform them that help is here. We can help you, we can assist you. So kung gusto niyo naman na tulungan namin kayo, then just reach out to us and we are available for you. And policies and protocols should recognize and prevent burnout. So we have to create guidelines wherein we also give we also recognize that as frontliners or as personnel, we have to give them time for themselves because we do not want our personnel to reach a point na they find their jobs unmeaningful na. Wala na silang motivation to do their jobs. So allow them to relax, allow them to for giving them breaks so that whenever they need to go to their jobs or to their work, hindi nila kailangan i-push yung sarili nila na kailangan ko pumunta ng trabaho, kailangan ko na gawin to because people expect me to do this. We have to erase those ideas na parang they are expected. Kailangan din natin na i-allow yung sarili nila na to relax or to at least parang take a break. Yun nga, kasi tao lang din sila. And as much as we want to keep on giving these assistance or these taking care of our patients or our students, we also need time for ourselves. And then, of course, in the elderlies, we also need to provide more access to psychosocial support. Kasi they might find it difficult to look or to find psychosocial support because of their age, because of their parang siguro wala silang alam kung saan sila pupunta. So as people who are more versed with how we can look for psychosocial support, then we can also help these seniors natin to look for psychosocial support that is readily available. And then provide emotional support, wherein emotional support can also come from family, can also come from our neighbors, and come from health personnel, of course. And then encourage them to take care of their own needs too. So hindi naman kailangan na we also have to look at them closely. We also have to encourage them na you can also take care of your own needs. So if you want to, you can do walking sa loob ng bahay. You can develop more new interests. So you can look for ways where you can express your creativity despite being confined in your own homes. And then lessen exposure to news reports. So as people who are more parang nasa bahay lang sila, who are more stayed at home, kailangan lang din natin na we have to lessen their exposure to news reports because it might cause panic among the elderly. So the more na they get panic, the more they try neglect how they can take care of their own needs. So kailangan na we also have to say to them na kailangan lessen yung exposure natin sa mga news on television or on radios or on newspapers kasi it can cause more panic lalo na if you do not have this much information that can help confirm, validate, or negate whatever you see on the news. And then children, of course, kasi yung target natin or yung agency naman natin is really focusing on the well-being of children, diba? So how can we encourage or how can we promote psychosocial well-being in our children rather? So understand intense attention seeking and demand of children from parents. So at this time, there might be instances or tendencies sa yung mga anak natin, they might be more attention seeking and demand more from you as parents. So we need to understand that this can be a response when it comes to the pandemic. Kasi they do not know how grave or parang dangerous it can be. Kasi yung sa kanila, they have yung priorities naman nila is not as the same when it comes to the priorities of adults. So we need to be more understanding when it comes to the needs of our children. Because if we do not address that, then there might be tendencies na mag-away kayo. Okay, there might be tendencies na you just have you keep on addressing what you need, but you do not address what is needed by your child. And then maintain familiar daily routines at home. So kung ano man yung ginagawa niyo sa bahay, you can just maintain those routines wherein it can provide a sense of comfort toward the child or your children. Because at least they can have this sense of normalcy na wala naman palang um, hindi naman siguro ganun ka grave or hindi naman siguro ganun ka dangerous because what is happening at home is still the same. Diba? So at least they still have that, they can still maintain that sense of normalcy. And then create new routines by providing regular time for learning activities because we are confined in our homes and then we are giving modules to answer. So how can we allow these children to express their creativity, their energies? So as a parent, allow them to explore new interests or new pursuits that can be just done at home. So if a child can learn painting, kung may piano naman kayo sa bahay, then you can teach the child piano and guitar. So a lot of things can be done, a lot of skills can be learned when you are at home. So just try to bring out the creativity in your child. And then parents should respond to children's reaction in a supportive and gentle manner. Yes, we understand that as adults, we also have our fears, we also have our anxieties, we also have our negative reactions to this pandemic. But then, as a parent, we also have to ensure that a child also has their own reaction. So we have to carefully explain, we have to let them understand that what is happening is um, parang changing what we are used to. So kailangan din na we have to respond to them in a way na hindi naman tayo panicky, hindi naman tayo stressed out. We just have to inform them in a way na they can understand. For example, a child is asking, why do we have to wear masks when we go outside? Or bakit may mask ka na, mom, dad, whenever you go out? So that can be, it can parang be a way na it can trigger our stressors, di ba? Kasi nga, we have to focus on other things and then a child is asking about something na hindi pa niya alam. So we have to make them understand in a still na hindi tayo galit, di ba? Hindi tayo nagmamadali, hindi tayo parang we're just expecting the child to understand kasi nga they process situations differently. So we have to understand that when a child is asking, when a child is reacting to a situation, as parents, we still have to be supportive and gentle in making them understand the situation. So from there, I would also like to share some of the mental health responses that we do in our hospital as mental health professionals or as healthcare providers. So currently, our program, the mental health program, is under the Public Health Department of Davao Regional Medical Center. So here are some of our responses towards the pandemic when it comes to the mental health. So first, in the parang yung nung bago pa lang yung pandemic or when we were still in the stages or in the early stages of lockdown, we produced or we published some leaflets or we published some notices about how these or how our employees can seek mental health assistance or mental health services. So on the left, you can see that we have advertised about job burnout because that was some of the thing or that was some of the experience of our personnel na because yun nga, of the pandemic, most of them were surprised na ganito na yung protocols natin, ganito na yung guidelines natin. So kailangan na we have on top of taking care of the patients, they also have to understand the new guidelines of admitting patients. So that was a contributory factor to burnout. So we published some notices or announcements that if you ever feel burnout, you can contact our hotline numbers. So we are open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and luckily naman, some of our personnel responded and we were able to address whatever they were feeling towards their job at that moment. And then we also published leaflets or pamphlets of what you can do during the pandemic when it comes to your mental health. So you can take care of yourself, always take a break, and then limit your social media use and talk to people who are close to you. Still be compassionate and practicing empathy, following guidelines, of course, and seeking help. So we were continuously posting this, continuously advertising this because we know people are stressed out or burnt out when it comes to their job. So kailangan talaga na we have to constantly also remind them that our services are here, our services are available. So if you want to seek for help, then you can just contact our number or go to our office. And then again, in the early stages of the pandemic, so we in relation to the Musa Fabric Company, some of our most of our frontliners were given encouraging and very motivating letters from the students or from the family members of the people from Musa Fabric. So ito, we posted them in our Facebook page. We also give copies to this to our personnel, to the frontliners, so that at least whenever they feel demotivated, they have something to read or they have something to look at whenever they need to have that spark or to have that parang yeah, spark of energy to do their jobs. Kasi nga, it was very stressful during that time where the pandemic was yung early stages of the pandemic na it reached Tagum City. So it was very stressful for them. So at least they were given this opportunity na people were encouraging them, people were allowing them they were informing people that they were being cheered on, they were being prayed for. So at least this was given so that the frontliners would be more motivated to do their job. And then also we conducted webinars wherein we talked about the mental health and psychosocial considerations during the COVID-19 outbreak. In partnership with our consulting psychiatrists and also the psychologists in the mental health program of Davao Regional Medical Center. And also, these are some of the pictures wherein we conducted stress debriefing or critical incident stress debriefing kasi in our hospital sometimes or there were instances or cases na a whole department was exposed to the virus. So in ways of addressing their concerns when it comes to the virus, they ask for our assistance to create or to conduct a critical incident stress debriefing wherein ano naman din, we provided and at least we were able to address what concerns they had or what were their insights about what happened and how they can cope from what happened to or what happened to their department na na-expose sila sa virus. And in these pictures, we also did the CISD or the Critical Incident Stress Debriefing to our personnel who are directly handling the pandemic. So sila yung mga personnel who are catering to the patients who were diagnosed with a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. So we, as part of their parang self-care and also services na rin ng mental health, we were giving them the debriefing sessions. So ito yung mga instances that they were allowed to vent out their feelings, to express their emotions, so that once they go back to their jobs, they are relieved. Naman, no, they can still perform or they can still do their jobs as personnel or frontliners. And then of course, publishing din ng mga infographics about what they can do about their mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. And also publishing some infographics and then mga encouraging ways on how you can do or how you can cope with your situation while you're at home. So ito yung mga nilalagay namin or na-publish namin sa aming official Facebook page in the PhD mental health program so that people can also have an idea on how they can take care of themselves even if they're just at home. Kasi yung mga routines natin or yung mga typical na coping mechanisms natin that we do might have been parang na-disrupt siya So sometimes, di ba, when we're stressed out, we want to travel, we want to go outside of where we live. So ngayon, hindi tayo pwede makapag-travel. So instead, how can we do that in just the corners of our home? So yun yung mga parang goal namin in publishing such encouraging and motivating infographics. And then lastly, this is what I want to impart, or this is what I want to share to everyone who is listening. Na there are situations where despite what we want to happen, hindi talaga siya nangyayari. So just like the pandemic, even if we want things to be normal again, even if we want things to go back to how it was, hindi na talaga siya possible. So what we can do just to parang alleviate what we're feeling and the negative emotions that we are experiencing, we can just focus on what we can control or what we can control than on what we cannot. So if you cannot control this situation, so just let it go. Because if it's not beneficial for your mental health, then allow it to, or allow yourself to let go of that and focus on something na pwede mong kontrolin on your own. So there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. So again, in the previous na mga sinabi ko, how can you reach out to people na can help, or mental health professionals are willing to help you in times of crisis or in times of need. So this was published in the DOH, or Department of Health na Davao Region page, where you can contact these numbers for the National Center for Mental Health. So you can call these numbers whenever you feel na kailangan mo ng kausap. Okay? So you have 0917-899-USAP, and their telephone number 027989-USAP or 8727. And aside from that, you can also contact these numbers. So in if you feel na kailangan mo ng kausap talaga, and these adverse emotions are making you think of siguro ending your life or committing, or ending your life or suicide, then you can call these numbers. And they are open 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, our Hope line. So you can have 804 HOPE or 0917-558-HOPE or 4673. And also, we have the Tawag Paglaom, where you can call them through their Smart and Sun numbers and Globe and TM number. So I will be giving naman a copy of the slide to our facilitator so that they can also give you the numbers in case you want to seek for help. And then, ito naman yung DRMC Mental Health Program hotline numbers namin. You can contact this number, Smart and Globe, and also send us a message through our Facebook page, PhD Mental Health Program. So either that, or you can text us so that we can help you in any way we can. And with that, I would want to end with a parang quote saying that I promise to take care of myself and seek help whenever problems concerning my mental health arise. So I want you to put this at heart and always make this promise, kasi nga hindi naman tayo robots where we cannot feel anything. So once we feel that these emotions are taking the best of us, we can seek for help whenever we see or we feel na kailangan natin. So with that, thank you for listening, and here are some of the references, and I'd like to give the floor back to Dr. Luzon and Sir MC.
Okay. Sir, thank you so much for that brief and concise talaga po no na discussion on the importance of taking good care of our mental health, especially right now that we are still experiencing this pandemic na even ako at yung mga kasamahan ko dito, dumaan talaga sa time na parang nada-down ka, no, because of the situation. Especially ako, sir, kasi I'm a COVID-19 survivor. Share ko na lang din. I'm a COVID-19 survivor, and I went through a lot talaga during during the time na nagka-COVID ako. It's because ang pinaka mahirap kasi doon is hindi lang ako yung nagka-COVID, yung some of my family members, no, nagkaroon talaga. So sabi ko nga sa sarili ko back then na kung ako lang, kayang-kaya talaga, but because of the, alam mo, the emotional stress, because iniisip mo yung kalagayan nila, because they are also senior citizen yung parents ko. So that's why parang mas nada-down ka, but totoo din yung sabi mo, sir, no, na you need someone to talk, na someone to lean on, na para mapakinggan ka rin, because kailangan mo talaga ng support system. And nasabi ko talaga na ang dami kong support system during that time na tumulong sa amin, yung mga friends ko from different agencies, even my family, kasi we have this 3 hour parang prayer na ginagawa namin na nagpapagaan talaga ng damdamin or yung feelings namin sa bagay na nangyayari sa amin. So, I really agree on that talaga, Sir Clint. But then again, Sir Clint, thank you so much for your time, for sharing those informations about mental health. Kasi tama ka talaga, Sir Clint, na hindi agad-agad kinoconsider ng ibang tao yung
Mental health.
mental health nila. Tama, Doc, no? Especially on addressing their emotional problem. Kasi minsan, iniisip nila, once you hear the word mental, iba na kasi yung dating. You have a mental problem na talaga na nawawala ka sa pag-iisip. Di ba, Doc? Tama ba ako, Doc?
Yes, that's true because even sa amin in practice, some of my patients, daming complaints, 'di ba? Sakit ang ako
Yes.
ang tiyan, sakit ako, labad akong ulo. Pero sometimes pag after the workup, all are normal and you will find out that all the symptoms are stress induced. So once you deal with the patient's mental health problem, all the symptoms go away. Morgana.
Yes. Totoo. Totoo talaga. That's why you need support system talaga, and you need to be open. So right now, Sir Clint, let's address or let's answer some questions po, no? Okay lang ba, Sir Clint, to address some
Yes.
questions po? Okay po. So here are some of the questions na nag-gather po namin, no? So good morning from Nesan Tagwalan. Good morning. Sa school level po, is there any personnel na authorized mo assess sa bata, learner, who have mental health issues? Is it a valid reason to promote the child without meeting the competencies? Thank you and God bless the Department of Education. Yun po yung first question natin, Sir Clint.
Okay, sige. Kasi sa school level naman natin, we do have naman tayong mga guidance counselors, right? So,
Yes.
that could be the initial, naman, parang level or stage of assessment where kanang mga guidance counselors na to or any guidance associates, sila ang at least initially, tanawon lang kung sa man dyan ang behavioral issues or emotional issues or physical issues that na gina-experience ato ang mga students. And kung makita nato na this could be referred, no, or pwede nato siya ma-refer sa someone who is more capable in diagnosing or at least ma-address lang kung sa mga issues, then they can refer it to mga psychiatrists or mga psychologists or kinsa pa ba na mas or capable in handling this mga issues nato. And then katong sa last part na question ganito sir, is it so
Okay.
that is, ayun, valid
Um,
reason to promote the child without meeting the competencies. Ay, di lang kaayo jud ko familiar sir no sa kanang unsa man ang atong guidelines or ano na to
mhm.
sa DepEd, but if we see naman na despite the issues or behavioral concerns na naa sa bata, emotional or what not,
Yeah.
kung yahanam na meet ng academic standards of being promoted to another grade level. So why not? Di ba po? But kung kana lang mga to ang concern ng iyang behavioral or other issues aside from academic performance, then pwede na po nato na ma-address in other ways. But academically, I guess, if na-meet yun niya ang standards as, let's say, being promoted dapat siya for high school or any higher grade level sa elementary, then pwede. But kailangan lang dyan nato na ano lang po, ma-ensure na ang guidelines na follow lang hindi hapon nato for promotion sa to ang student.
Okay, copy that, sir. Okay, so sir, may follow up dyan sa question, no. So it's a personal question from me. Okay, so um uh when is the right time po ba na ma-consider natin yung certain individual na kailangan
Mhm.
niya talaga na higher level of need when it comes to addressing
Mm.
her mental need talaga or mental
Mhm.
problem?
Okay.
Do you have any
So,
parang rate, ganyan?
sige sir. Kasi sa assessment mo din nato sir, na it would also depend on how we assess the student ba or personnel or kinsa man kay kana man gud na kana siya na part, we also have to base that kung unsa man ang nakita or unsa man ang na-observe sa ato ang sa atong patient o sa atong kliyente. So in kaso sir na kanang sila kay di ba kung sa ko ang mag-recall ha, once na nag-intervene na ang school through the guidance counselors nato, and then there is a mga nahitabo na medyo wala na unsa ba dili man wala na address, but wala nag-improve or wala na cut ang kanang certain behavior sa bata, so that can be a way na pwede na nato ma refer sa someone na mas maka cater sa iyaha kay naka ano naman ka naka-intervene as an agency or as an institution. So
Mm-mm.
once nakahatag na nag-intervention, and then of course kailangan man po nato na exhaust kung sa mga interventions na ito pwede mahatag sa bata. Kung let's say
Mm-mm.
sa naibata na medyo kiat or medyo kiat, but ka na behavioral issues or behavioral
Oo.
concerns, pwede man mag-home visit, pwede man ta mag-interview sa parents, pwede man nato interview na ato ang iyang classmates and teacher or kinsa ba na pwede makatabang sa case sa bata. And then, once we have gathered those information, pangitaan nato og week kung sa mga intervention na pa pwede mahatag.
Mm-mm.
So dili man pud ingon na once nakahatag tag isa ka intervention, that's it. Diba? Pwede man na naghatag tag pipila na jud ka intervention and then we see na murag wala man joy effect sa tuang student or sa tuang personnel or kinsa ba. So that can be a way of referring that to another personnel or a professional who can address those concerns na naa sa ato ang mga sa atong client or sa atong patient.
Okay, so sir, okay. So klaro gito Sir Clint. Thank you so much. And we have another question, Sir Clint. It's from wait lang. From RN Ron Guerinya Llagas. Tama ba 'yon? What necessary things should a teacher do when she knew her pupils and or guardians are struggling mentally? How can
Mm.
a teacher or the teacher aid to this, since this for sure has an effect to the learner primarily?
What necessary things? So one thing na pwede dyan nato mabuhat as teachers no is kay kita man gud na sa classroom and then we see that a student or a pupil is struggling. So one thing that pwede dyan nato mabuhat as mga the person inside the classroom, mga tanata, we ask, we communicate. And then once we see na or once we learn na kanina siya nag-struggle jud siya mentally, na jud sila na jud siya issues, and then it could be because of sa school, it could be because of other reasons, no? So pwede nato na um, kita as teachers, once we have asked, once we have no, we know na mao din na hitabo or mao din ang kanang state sa kung pupil or sa kung guardian, then pwede rin nato masik po ang ubang ang tabang sa to ang mga personal
Mm-mm.
na nasa school. So for example, natay co-teacher na naka-experience o ani na um, issue sa iyang pupil, then mangutan na siya giunsa nimo pag-address ni na concern sa imong pupil kay murag same lang man taog
Mm-mm.
kanang naagihan na experience na siya problema sa family na siya. You can gather ideas from your colleagues, and then you can also ask the help of your guidance office, your guidance counselors, because they have the ano naman the capabilities or skills in doing that. And yun, it all starts with asking. Mangutanan jud ta kung unsa man jud ang ato ang unsa man jud ang concern, unsa man jud ang problema kay na notice na ako na naay something off or naay something wrong. So once you have that answer, so nakabalo na ka na, ing ani dayang nahitabo, pwede na ka mangita og way, or pwede na ka mangita og alaing avenue kung saan mo nato pag-address din ang concern. Kay we, as teachers, dagan jud kay tag ano no, dagan kay tag kanang responsibilities, and that's very commendable naman po na we still go out of our way just to help our students na dili naman yun siya necessary part of our job, but then we do that because as human beings, of course we empathize, we know na kailangan jud nato na tabangan nato kay syempre kita po we have struggles of our own, and then kabalo ta na kailangan natong help, so kani siya basi kailangan po na niyang tabang. So we just have to ask and then look for ways or people na pwede mas makatabang sa iya. Kaya kung kita mismo as teachers, dili na nato, makaingon man dyan na, dili na nako kaya, dili na ako kaya ma-handle yung problem. So, we
Mm-mm.
can look for other people or personnels na pwede po na makatabang dyan or maka-address dyan sa needs sa ato ang um, sa tong client or student. And that can also be addressed through linkages, through sa ato ang kung naman tayong hospital na pwede ma-referan na naay
Mm-mm.
mental health program ba or naay let's say mental health professional na pwede makatabang sa iya, then you can do that as long as ma-address lang dyan nato ang concern sa ato ang students.
Okay. So Sir Clint, thank you na tama gito, no? Okay. Sir Clint, yes, Doc. Yes, Doc. Yes. Ay,
Ay,
Doc,
sorry
na-mute.
I think my microphone was off. So,
Naka-mute ka pala,
mali.
Doc. So, live kasi tayo. Yan yung
So,
mga
yeah, there.
disadvantages ng live. Yes, Doc. Go ahead, Doc. Let's
So, my
rewind
question
your question.
to Sir Clan, in your presentation, you mentioned that um, while it is very tempting to always be productive, because karon in 2021, di ba, marag hustle culture, we always have to have produce an output all the time. But you mentioned that dapat na aghapon tayo time to
Mhm.
we always have to take time to unwind and relax. So, where do we draw the line between being productive and having time to not stress about work, especially for us
Mm.
government employees? So, full-time government employees, we always have kanang demand. So, one concrete example for that, sir, is, di ba sa ato sa government, we have work from home privilege. So, how do you suggest we go about it sa kanang productivity problem na to sa work from home?
Mhm. Okay, so productivity problem. One of the things that people did while coping is being productive, but not to a point na you're just thinking of kailangan maging productive ko, kailangan akong output is dapat more than what is expected of me. Kay murag ano na jud
Mm-mm.
kay na siya. It's very ano na ba, very bugat na kay syempre we still have the pandemic to parang we have to be careful po because of the pandemic. So I guess we also have to be as people naman no, or as we are more versed or we are more kanang familiar kung asa man or unsa man atong kaya ma-handle in situations like this. Kay I cannot say na ikaw kaya pa na nimo kay dili man ka stress out tanawon. Ikaw ani we cope or we have different responses man jud when it comes to stressful situations,
Mm-mm.
right? So once we have that na anang that idea that we are familiar of what we are capable or what we are kanang murag asa ta mo draw og line kung unsa man jud ang ato ang mga dapat buhaton kay unless kung work from home ta, we are given naman po the set of, if I'm not mistaken na,
Mm-hmm.
if you're working from home, you are given a set of goals that
Mga
you have to
task, yes.
achieve.
Yes.
Yes, tasks. For example, you have 5 tasks na kailangan mo ma-meet for that day. So, and then na list daan na for Monday, Tuesday, for this week, mo dapat mo ma-meet while you're working from home. So you have to meet at least 5 to 6 tasks a day. So, mo lang na, imubuhaton. You have to meet those 5 tasks, and then kung naa pa man kay time na na dili man necessarily na kailangan jud nimo ipugos yung sarili na i-meet nimo tong task for the whole week. Kaya mo nakaset naman siya na for the whole week, these are your tasks for each day. So kailangan ma-meeting mo ni siya from 8 to 5 or from 7 to 4 or sa mga oras niyang shift. So you have to also do those things within those time or within the time period that you're expected to. Kaya kung nahurot na nimo haros imong trabaho sa for 1 week, wala na kay buhaton. So what's the point of working from home if wala na kay buhaton, di ba? So at least
Yes.
if na organize naman nimo, kabalo naman ka sa mga goals na dapat nimo meet, then you have to do that because most of the agencies in government institutions don't have I some have the privilege of working from home, and
Yes.
Mm-mm.
it's ano jud kanang
Uh,
murag asuya ko on our part because you are kanang murag allowed to have the option and the option, but it doesn't mean na once you're working from home na dili na dapat nimo kailangan i-meet imong objectives as
Mm, that's
because
true.
you're still given the murag sa man ka ng you're still given the tasks, you're still given the objectives, and you have to meet them. But then, dili po natin overwork at mga sarili na kailangan
Mm-mm.
trabahoon siya ako na nakaschedule sa kuha. If you're limited for this day na 3, 4, 5 tasks, then kana lang yung meet, then you're good to go for the rest of the day. For the rest of the day, na dili naka-required magtrabaho. Okay?
Mm-mm.
But yun nga, your responsibilities do not end just because you're working from home. So kailangan na dyan natin na ma-meet whatever is given to us and then produce what is expected of us. Then we can just follow lang kung sa mga ano. Do not overwork yourself. Do not ano po na kanang just because you're working from home, kalimutan na nato na natin trabaho or dapat yung mga
Mm-mm.
dapat buhat.
mm,
So we just have to prioritize and then organize whatever is needed so that we can accomplish those tasks and those responsibilities na kailangan gihapon natin buhaton even if we're working from home. So,
Yes. Okay. Yes,
I
sir. Tama
agree.
talaga. Yes, totoo. So, Sir Clint, in line with that work, no, workloads and ganyan. So, we experience stress naman, di ba, when it comes to work. So, how are we going to identify that those stress is already bad and those stress are already good?
Yes,
Kasi sometimes we heard a lot of
that's a good
stress, di ba?
question.
We heard a lot of stress, na stress ako dito, stress ako sa ganyan. But
mm,
meron ding parang sinasabi lang, we have bad stress and good stress. So, when are we
mm,
going to say or identify that that one is a good stress and this one is a
mm,
bad stress? Yun.
okay, sige, sige. So, in our ano
Good
kasi no, in
question.
our stress management webinar, we have this differentiation of two kinds of stress. We have the eustress and the distress. So when we talk about eustress, one a positive stress. So we all know what distress naman is, or what we know na sa
Yes.
kanila negative stress, right? But when we go to eustress muna, eustress is something that motivates you to do your job, of course. Kita as students, kung sa mga certain situations na natay eustress. So natay exam, di ba? Natay deadlines. So because we have this certain goal that we have to meet. Unang murag siguro, yeah, we have that certain goal that we have to meet that is
Mm-mm.
allowing us to feel stressed. But that is making us stressed because we need to meet a certain goal. Kailangan nato na makapasa tag deadlines, kailangan nato mapasa tong thesis ba, kailangan nato mapasa ato ang
Uh,
kailangan nato mag-study because we have an exam. But then, kana siya na situation, it helps us to be productive. In a sense, it helps us to be achieving our goals. It helps us na kung kanimo na ato ang dapat i-meet, kailangan jud ma-meet nato siya because kung di nato ma-meet, wala tay grade, wala tay, let's say,
Mm-mm.
wala tay rating makuha. So, we need to stress over this. We need to complete this para natay ma-meet na nato ang goal or ang objective. So, that is one situation na makaingon tag stress or a good stress or a positive stress. So, dili magud tanan situations they can emit negative stress dili pasabot na kanina sitwasyon negative na siya. One thing we also have to consider is how a person perceives the situation. Again, we have individual differences, but it depends on how a person sees the situation. Kung ikaw makita nimo na negative stress ni siya, but then sa imuhang isa ka kauban mo lahi man iyang way of coping with this, more positive man ang iyang ano. So that can also be an issue. But then again, take into mind that when you talk about positive stress, it's something that helps you achieve something. It's something that
Mm-mm.
helps you do better for at least for a short period of time para lang ma-meet ni mo yung mga objectives. But then kung ayun kung negative stress kana na mga negative emotions, negative thinking, negative thought processes. So once that is makita natin ay ingani na ang iyang effects sa imuha, then that
Mm-mm.
can be negative or the negative stress na. But again, if it makes you productive, it helps you to achieve those goals, and that can be a positive form of stress.
Mm-mm. So parang conscious sir, no? As long as you're happy on what are you doing, you can
Mhm.
consider that as a parang stress ka pero you're productive in a way na maganda yung resulta sa ginagawa mo. Kasi somehow, um, may ginagawa ka isang bagay na bago sa'yo but unfortunately, parang iba yung effect sa'yo. No? Yung mga ganong bagay. So, tama talaga sir, no? Parang ang, to sum it up, kung as long as you're happy, as long as you're happy sa ginagawa mo, then okay yun. Yung gano'n, no? Okay. Sir, may isa din pa tayo. May question pa rin tayo. Okay lang ba? So ito, sir, ito, address ito sa lahat talaga sa learners, sa teachers, no? Especially that sa learners natin ngayon, meron na silang online, ang iba, modular, and sa teachers naman natin, yung ongoing printing nila, checking of modules, may iba pa na umaalis talaga sa school ground, pumupunta sa bahay nila, bahay ng mga estudyante, which is somehow at risk din sila sa mga itong tinatawag natin na pandemic or COVID-19. So, as uh, individual po, how are we going to help them to address their mental problem? Like, may isang tao na ayaw aminin yung meron na silang may bigat na
In
silang
denial.
nadarama. Yeah, in
In
denial, tama daw.
denial.
In denial to address or to consider na ito na yung nafe-feel mo. How are you going to help them? O ano yung bagay na pwede nating itulong sa kanila for them to realize na normal lang naman yung nararamdaman mo sa panahong abnormal, which is abnormal naman talaga kasi hindi naman talaga usual itong pandemic na nafe-feel natin. So ano yung pwede nating ibigay or i-encourage sa kanila?
Mhm. Sige, sir. So, going back to the katong question about sa pupils, no, na they
Mm-mm.
might be struggling mentally, it also helps na we ask from time to time how our personnel or how our co-teachers
Mm-mm.
or kinsa ba itong mga kauban colleagues are doing. Because maybe wala sila opportunity to be open about wala sila
Yes.
because they're too focused on their work na they forget na imao nilang emotions, and then pag uli nila dila pa nila ma-realize na murag ano man day ko
Yes.
kapoy, but then pag mata na po nila ilang focus is on the other things or on
Mm-mm.
the
Tama.
responsibilities na nila, di ba? So dili man gud siya ingon na kanang it takes practice. Okay? It takes a whole lot of practice to acknowledge how you are feeling. Dili man gud siya ingon na kanang yes, ma-feel nato, but how do we look at our emotions as something that is causing our behavior kana when it takes practice, and then once you know na kani ako ang ano, or once ma-realize ni mo ba morning mga emotions mo niya ako ang at least kabalo na ka, but not a lot of
Mm.
people know na or
Ito pa sa
no,
akin
not
question, Doc. Tama ka? Ay,
they are not knowing, or they are
klaro.
just maybe too sa baka nang marag to focus lagi on what they are doing. So sometimes they forget na nandito sila yung mga issues na yan. So one thing that
Yeah.
can help is asking them na, kumusta na, kumusta naman? How are you doing? Or
Mm-mm.
kanang storya lang na, kumusta man ang mga issues na ano na to, na maano na, na encounter na to in the
Yes.
field or with others. So it just helps to ask. But then if once you've asked and then nakita ning in denial gihapon siya na dili niya gina acknowledge, dili niya gina recognize na ay nga ni murag kapoy ko pero kailangan na dili ko kapoy, kailangan na
Mm-mm.
okay gihapon ko. One thing that you can do is as within the agency pwede mong maghatag og mga checklists or mga questionnaires asking for their kanaganing murag mental health state or
Mm-mm.
unsa pa sila. May mga online questionnaires that you can use so that you can just check on how your personnel or how your colleagues are doing. Kay by then, if naaman tayo mga ano ana, at least natay basis or natay kanang murag springboard on how we can approach the person because in those checklists, nakita natin na medyo elevated or medyo taas yung scores. So it means na there might be high anxiety or high depression, high
Mm-mm.
depressive tendencies
Totoo.
na. So you ask the person na mao ni mga results. Although dili ano man jud tanong kanang dili man taingon na kanang not all people are kana ganing more honest about how they feel, but once you see na mao
Yes.
ni yung results and then maano ni mo ma-check yung bibig mo na mao ni mo results, are you okay, are you doing well, mao unsa man jud
Mm.
imong gibati, then that is
Totoo.
their chance na murag they can open up, they can talk about how they're feeling kay basig maulo sila tong first time na ni-istorya ka or basig nakalimtan lang nila ana good. So with that with those at least murag worksheets or questionnaires makahatag ta og kanang murag way for them to express. And then we also once na ano na we can also create nantay data, we can create wellness programs or mental health programs for them na they can
Mm-mm.
allow themselves to be more attuned or be more acknowledging of their emotions. Like for example, namatay sessions na di mo po necessary lang good na kailangan of professional, but a gathering where you can at least open up your emotions, talk about your experiences, and
Mm-mm.
ensuring a safe space na siya. Providing an avenue or an opportunity for those people or for your personal or colleagues that they can be more open about their experiences, their emotions. Because from there, at least maano nila ba na they can have a time or they can have a period na they can be human. Diba? They can express how they feel. And then from
Mm-mm.
that, from aside from that, conducting at least kaning mga webinars or talks or awareness about mental health, that can also be one way of ensuring how they can cope. And also asking them directly kung sa mo pwede mabuhat para sa imuha,
Yes.
what can
Totoo.
we what can we do for you so that we can at least help lessen your mental health load or pwede ka na matabangan sa kung sa manang ano so that at least dili kaayo ta focus sa kanaganing sa kung unsa man ang ina-expect sa ato, but we also have to know, put in mind that as people, as human beings, we also need to have the opportunity to rest, to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
So, again, balik ko lang ako to kung giingon nga na
Yes.
as carers or as teachers or as any other professions in the helping profession, you cannot give what you cannot have. So, the
Yes.
more na magsige kita aghatag ug unsa man ang ato ang hurot na kay ta ubos na kaya nga ato ang murag ang
Mm-mm.
ato ang unsa ba na ato ang pwede ma-share di wala na tayo maano so kita na no walang ma-burn out kita na no walang ma-stressed out so we need to take a step back rest relax so that kung unsa man tong murag ginabutangan nato kanang murag health nato pwede nato siya makuha og usab and then we can extend that to our students or colleagues and then at least di ba dili siya ingon na negative ang iyang cycle kay the more you prevent yourself the more you um, increase your chances of parang turning to negative coping mechanism. So that can
Yes.
create an ano dyan, kanang onset na gani of mental health issues that can be a
Mm-mm.
triggering factor. So we need to
Yes.
always look out for our personnel, for our colleagues, and then just ask, and then daghan man tag ka ng mga ways of at least creating programs. So from that checklist na pwede natin makuha, we can at least parang think of a program where we can address this mga kanang kumbaga many na issue or ano, not many but issue and concern with our personnel. So at least lang makakuha tag idea, and then from there we
Mm-mm.
build on that idea where we can build programs, we can build opportunities for people to be more ganing be more attuned with their mental health or be more
Mm-mm.
aware of their mental health.
So thank you, Sir Clint, no, for that yung clarification, yung for giving us a clear understanding on how are we going to manage, no, to address certain causes and reasons about mental health. Yes, Doc. Do you have anything to share po?
No, so since this is live, like there are comments about my audio. So I don't know what's happening. I changed na computer pero wala gihapon hinay gyapon ang audio. So I
Ah,
guess kani last question na lang from the audience, no. I-show na lang nako ni sir. Ah,
dili ka natin isa ko.
kani.
Ay, ito isa
Yan.
na.
So how do they help as teachers? How do they help daw their students with mental fatigue? Like boredom during answering modules.
Ah,
I think this is a very relevant
Answering modules that
question
yes.
for the current situation.
sa ano man gud nato no in the it's still I think a method of adjustment sa ato mga students, and not only our students but also our teachers kay we're so used to the idea of a classroom setting, diba? We're so used to the idea of meeting atong mga friends, atong mga classmates in the classroom, dira kita maka-meet og mga friends jud nato, diba? So in this time of the pandemic or of COVID-19, people are still adjusting even if we're 1 year into the lockdown na, or in the new normal kumbaga. So there are still instances na people are adjusting, and one of that is kanaganing ginatawag nato ba kanang di question ni ma'am na mental fatigue, where people are just answering, or students are just answering our modules out of boredom kay murag they just have to answer this because they think na yes, because it is required of them. But one thing na pwede nato manggod ma-address, or one thing that we can also try to um, parang include in our in our teaching process, providing at least opportunities or avenues for our children to be creative, no, kanang kung kay they're at home, so they can at least have more access to how they can express their creativity kay aside from adjusting, they're still also adjusting to their situations at home. They're still adjusting to the protocols sa kailangan nila buhaton when they go out. Di ba, ang mga bata, magawas sila, magdula, ano pa. Now, dili mo sila makita magsigdula sa gawas. So,
Mm-mm.
kana siya, murag mawag po ng way sa mga bata of taking a break kumbaga from school, di ba?
Yes.
From from
Agree.
from answering modules kumbaga, but they're not allowed kay bawal man gyapon gawa sa mga
Mm-mm.
bata. So now that we are still in that stage na naga-modules gihapon na, maybe suggestion lang naman, we can also allow in our, or we can provide opportunities for the child to be more, to express their creativity na
Mm-mm.
kanang mga bata, they can think of ways on how they can answer their assignments, their homeworks, their modules, because in that way, at least ang mind sa mga bata nato, it's still working, it's still it's still encouraging them to look for ways despite na naalang sila sa balay. But, di ba, makita nato na in this time, we can teach new skills for them at least. And as
Yes.
teachers, we can suggest to our parents na, ma'am, as much as possible, maybe we can try to tagaan natong mga bagong activities at mga bata sa balay para lang ano lang pud nila na dili necessary or more dili necessity jud na murag dapat mag-focus lang jud sila sa ilang modules, but in fact they can answer the modules at the same time build other activities or build other skills that they can use in the future or they can use in the long term para dili lang pud ingon na ang routine sa itong mga bata kay module, tulog,
Mm-mm.
kaon, at least
Oh,
introducing
true.
some new activities for them to learn and for them to grow on. That can be pwede po nila magamit mas na sila, mga adults na, or they can use in the future.
So, agree talaga ako doon, Sir Clint, no? No, it's parang you need to enjoy na talaga. You need to enjoy the new normal na lang talaga, no? Parang hindi naman sa wala kang choice, but you need to
Mm.
at the same time talaga appreciate the things na kung ano meron tayo, no? And through that gratefulness and appreciation, you'll be able to enjoy talaga the life that we are having right now, no? Kasi if iniisip mo yung negative things, the more na nagiging nega yung life mo. So it's better talaga na you're surrounded with people and think more positively, you know, and be happy always. And yun, kasi nasa tao talaga yan eh. So you need to choose to be happy. Nasa tao talaga yan. Yes, Doc. Ah, Ay, nakamute ka, Doc. Nakamute ka po. Yun. Yes, Doc. Go. Go ahead, Doc.
I hope the audio is okay na now. Wala gihapon.
Ilapit mo lang.
Sige. So, I think we've already addressed all the
Yes.
questions from the comments, and then our own personal questions were addressed by our guest speaker. So, Sir Mac, do
Yes.
we
Okay. Yes, yes, Doc.
so
Okay, so before you go po, Sir Clint, and I hope we will have another round of this soon po,
Mm.
no? Before you go, we would like to give you the certificate of appreciation for being part of our webinar for health and wellness. Gosh, no? Okay, parang we're having we're having some hindi lumalabas yung but
Life
anyway,
lang yun.
sir.
Yes.
But anyway, sir, we would like to extend our gratitudes in behalf of our Schools Division Superintendent, Reynaldo Melorida, and our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Maria Genevieve Francisquete, for gracing this event. And ikaw po talaga yung pinakaunang guest talaga namin na nag-take part dito sa aming webinars, particularly on mental and wellness. And we are really grateful to you, sir, na I know you are busy sa sa work mo ngayon, but you nakakita ka ng time po talaga na masingit po talaga itong activity na to. And now, sir, parang ready na yung certificate. Sorry talaga. We are ready na. But again, thank you so much po for for giving us your precious time po talaga for to be one of our hindi ikaw talaga yung guest namin for and for for addressing some concerns about mental health. Ang rami pa talaga, but still you have we have parang sa time din natin ngayon because parang papunta na tayo ng 12 noon, and I know some of our viewers already they are also busy because they are currently sa mga schools ngayon, ang iba nasa field, and we are
Mm.
so thankful din sa mga viewers natin na nag-throw ng questions, nag-give ng questions, and I hope all those questions ay na-clarify po talaga ng ating guest na si Sir Clint. So it's our privilege talaga na kasama natin si Sir Clint ngayon. Okay na.
yeah, so
Okay, Sir Clint. So, we would like to give, before you go, Sir Clint, we would like to give you the certificate of appreciation. Republic of the Philippines, Department of Education, Region 11, Division of Davao Oriental, give the certificate of appreciation awarded to Mr. Clint Rodney De Lima, RPM, MSP SI, RPSY, for his exemplary effort extended on his expertise during the Wellness Month mental and physical resilience, Musta na You, an interactive talk show with the theme Malinaw na Kaisipan, Malusog na Pangangatawan, One DepEd sa Gitna ng Pandemic or Overcoming the New Normal Through Empowerment. Given this May 5, 2021 at Schools Division of Davao Oriental, City of Mati. Signed, Reynaldo B. Melorida, CESO 5. Yan. Again, Sir Clint, thank you po. Do you have
Sir Glenn, thank
any
you.
message po before ka po umalis sa screen natin? Any message for encouragement to all our viewers to take good care of their mental health? Yes, sir.
So again, I would like to thank the institution, no, for allowing me to talk about mental health, because we know na again it's a very timely issue kasi nga ngayon ding May, it's our mental health awareness month. So it's a good thing that we talk about mental health as much as possible. Kay sometimes you consider it as a taboo topic. We do not talk about it. We do not, parang murag we just do not acknowledge that it is something that we have to be more vocal about as people. So again, thank you for the division of Davao Oriental, so the Department of Education, for giving the platform on raising awareness on mental health and also talking about mental health in time of the pandemic. And I would like to leave you some words that, well, when you talk or when you take care of your mental health, you should. It also means, yeah, when you talk about when you take care of your physical health, you also have to take care of your mental health. So that's all, and thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Luzon, Sir MC.
Yeah. Sir Clint, and we hope to uh, have another collaboration with you po soon po, and we are thank you na you spent parang dalawang
Good
oras po
morning,
talaga.
yeah.
Your morning, dalawang oras po talaga dito sa atin. Dito sa program namin na Musta na You. Okay. Doc?
Yeah. Sir Max, madungog na ko.
Yes,
Murag,
naririnig
constant
ka po.
struggle.
Naririnig ka po.
So, thank you, Sir Glenn, for giving us professional information regarding our
Yes.
topic for today. And for the concern of everyone, di ba, Sir Max, since this is a month-long program, this will not be the last time that we
Yes.
will see our psychology,
Yes.
Sir
Tama.
Glenn. For the succeeding episodes, we will still be inviting him to address other concerns regarding mental health.
Yeah.
So for next episode of Musta na You for the Wellness Month, we will be interviewing COVID survivors in the Department of Education, Davao Oriental.
Yes.
So we will be accounting their experience, and through our psychologists, we will be processing all their experiences and thought process during their battle with
Huh?
COVID-19. So please look forward
Oo.
to that.
Yes. Again, Sir Clint, we would like to thank you in behalf of the Division of Davao Oriental. Madayaw og daghang salamat.
Thank
Daghang
you.
salamat.
Thank you for the.
Ata siya. Okay, so yun do
Game,
ang
game na ni Sir Mac.
grabe what a productive day talaga no na we spent together with Sir Clint, no? But before we end po talaga, we will have a games. Yon. We will give you we will raise three questions. Um all about the discussion po na nangyari kanina and kung sino yung unang makatype,
Comment
yes,
or
makakomment
maka-comment.
ng answer sa chat box, mapa-Facebook man yan or YouTube account or channel, we will consider kung sino yung pinakauna. And ano ba yung mga prices natin, Doc?
Asa
So,
mag-live selling
yes,
kay bata
hindi
Sir
kami
Mac?
magbebenta, ha, hindi kami magbebenta, but we will give you ano ba yung mga prices na pwedeng makuha ng ating mga viewers sa ating 121 viewers na andito pa ngayon na nakastay
Yes,
pa na
thank you for
online via
speaking.
Facebook Live and
And YouTube.
YouTube channel. So ano ba yung mga prices natin, Doc? So yung mga prices naman natin in connection pa rin ng preparedness continuous response natin with COVID-19 pandemic. So we have,
Live
ano ito,
selling.
hindi kami nagbebenta.
Disinfectant
Price,
spray.
disinfectant spray, Solvac. This is a disinfectant spray po. And we also have
A box
a box
of face
face mask.
mask.
'Di ba? Libre na 'to kasi bilihin nyo. So kung nanood kayo at nalaman nyo, masagot nyo yung mga tanong namin, we will give you this. And we have
A galon
a
of
1 gallon of alcohol, no? All from the division of
yes.
Davao
So
Oriental.
these are for personal consumption sa atong winner, di ba,
Yes.
Sir Mac? Because we used to give it to the schools. So kani for personal consumption ani to
Uh,
whoever po will be
yes.
able to answer the questions that we will be
Oh.
asking in a while.
Yes, but also, but before that, Doc, I would like to greet all of our viewers from the different schools in the division of Davao Oriental, from Tarragona, from Baganga, Buston, Katiil, Caraga, Lupon, Banay-Banay, Governor Generoso, San Isidro, may nalimutan ba ako? Banay-Banay, ano pa, Baganga, Tarragona, Katiil, Manay. Lahat ng mga schools natin na andyan sa mga munisipyo. Hello po sa lahat ng naka-view po at dito pa rin sa
Yes.
live natin. Okay?
Even after 2 hours na andyan.
Yes, to taas, mataas yun. I know some of our viewers are andon sa kanilang mga schools and busy sa kaka-print na modules. Ang iba nagche-check, 'di ba? And I would like to thank Ma'am Evangeline. Sabi kasi niya dito, Coach, ay sabi niya dito, Doc, you made my day 101% positive. So Ma'am Evangeline, thank you so much po. Okay. So let's start na, Doc, our first question.
Sige, Sir Mac, go.
Okay. Again, this program is entitled Musta na You. This is the title of our webinar.
Webinar series.
Yes, webinar series. Musta na You. Kasi we are, kinakamusta natin, kamusta na ba yung mga feelings natin, yung emotions natin, our mental health during this pandemic. And I know hindi lang pandemic, sa current work natin, workloads natin. So our first question, so sino yung una makasagot? We'll get,
The Solback.
yes, Solvac spray. Disinfectant spray. So our first question is, ready na ba ang lahat? Parang ready na kasi may clap na kasi. So our first question for our 123 viewers is, what is the name of our special guests? Complete name. Ano ang pangalan ng guest natin kanina? Sino po yung guest natin kanina? Ano po yung complete name ni Sir?
Okay, meron na.
Di, si Ma'am Jem. Kaning Jem. Baka na. Okay, we have a winner. Congratulations to Ma'am Jem Elicio Ando. Tama po yung...
Okay.
okay na yun. Clint Rodney De Lima. Yes, our speaker, our guest psychologist
for
and
today.
psychometrist na kasama natin kanina. Ma'am, congratulations. Okay.
You can claim
You can claim your prize in the division office. Just look for the DRM or health section personnel. Yun lang po. Okay, may nakasagot na po. Thank you po sa nagsumagot po. Next one natin.
Question na to Sir Mac.
Yes, next question. And our prize for this one is a box of a face mask. No? And this face mask is comfortable and breathable. filtered bacteria and three-layer productive and skin friendly. So alam ko madaming
Oh,
madami
shopping.
oo, madaming
Shopping.
maraming nagsasabi na parang may naghihimol-mol yung mask nila, but this is one of the best masks that we wear
Wow.
here. So we were giving this one,
Testimonial.
yes, we were giving this one as one of our prizes. So next question natin is, nasabi ko to kanina, what is the title of our webinar? Ano ang title ng webinar natin
The
today?
webinar
Yes, ang
series
webinar series
for this
natin.
month.
Ano yung title na sinabi namin kanina ni Dr. Kim? What is the title of our webinar?
Okay, naana tay first. Si Ma'am Love.
Yes, we have a winner. Nakikinig talaga ito. Si Ma'am Lorlene Dungakuta. Ma'am, you won. Or you win. You won. You won. Face mask. Naguluhan ako doon sa win at saka sa won. You won a box of face mask, ma'am. And again, claim your prize po sa division office. Just check just look for the division, DRM, or health section personnel. Okay, our last
Question for
question for
today.
the day na mananalo ng hand sanitizer gel. 1 gallon po ito. Okay. The question is, what do you mean by WHO? It is a non-government organization. Anong ibig sabihin ng WHO? Naguluhan sila. Anong ibig sabihin ng WHO?
Ooh. Okay, naana tay first.
Ay, nag-answer. Hindi na pwede si Ma'am
Answer.
Lorlene. Ma'am Lorlene, hindi ka na po pwede ha kasi may nakasagot ka na po kanina. Next na lang, okay? Sino pong next? We have Ma'am Rochelle.
Rosal.
Sige, Doc.
Ma'am Rosal Pardilio Gimare.
Yes, congratulations, ma'am. You get this one as your prize, a hand sanitizer gel. Congratulations po, ma'am. You can claim your prize here po sa
Sa
division
division
office.
office.
Yes, just look for the division DRM and health section personnel. Yun. Yun po, what a productive day for us, Doc Kim.
Yes, and even though I had some technical
Yeah.
problem,
Tama. Oo.
sige lang, mag-change sa taog microphone for
Yes.
the
Okay.
next
So, Doc,
episode.
any message for our viewers na online ngayon?
Yeah, so thank you to everyone who responded to our invitation for
Yes.
this webinar for today. So, like what we mentioned kaganina, di ba, this is a series. And this is not the only program that we have for our health and
Yes.
nutrition month. So, if for the past health and nutrition programs, sige tag Zumba, no? So, today
Mm-mm.
we are adapting to the new normal. So, di na ta
Yes.
magiging Zumba. So, we have uh, TikTok challenge. So we encourage all our field personnel to join. So we also have prizes in store. So aside from plaques and mga plaques and certificates, we also have mga Milo pack and other PPE that we are giving away
Mm-mm.
to the field pag mag-join sila. And also we have
The activities for the whole
month.
month. Yes,
We
Doc.
have Team Pure PPE. If the field personnel remembers, we distributed PPE like mask, um, face shield, alcohol, food to the field. So, we are having a program wherein you decorate your mask and face shield with eco-friendly items, and then the best ones na isend ninyo na pictures will win prizes also. So that's a month-long activity. So I hope we already posted the memo, I believe, sa DepEdev or page. So I hope that our beloved field personnel will be able to join. So to representatives per districts po tayo. So we're looking forward to receiving 34 entries.
Doc. Doc. Okay, Doc. So thank you so much for the announcement, no, para malaman na ano ba yung mga bagay na aabangan nila dito sa whole month natin na observance of the wellness. But before we go po, I would like to extend our gratitude to all of our viewers na alam ko busy ngayon sa kanilang mga schools, sa pagprint ng modules na nabigyan talaga nila ng time itong webinar natin on mental health. And like what I've said, this is very important nowadays, especially this time around. Now we are currently experiencing the COVID-19, and not just that, but yung mga workloads natin na hinahawakan ngayon. So again, take away ko din sa discussion natin kanina, we need to consider, address, and uh, tanggapin natin kung ano yung mga emotions na nafe-feel natin kasi these emotions are normal to an abnormal situation. Hindi naman normal ito yung pandemic na nangyari. But like what I've said, we need to have support system. We need someone to talk. No, enjoy every day of your life because happiness is a choice, di ba, Doc?
True, every day is a blessing. So, dili tanan, 'di ba, mo survive ani na pandemic.
Yes.
So, we're very fortunate if nakalampas ta ani na pandemic na wa ta natanggap og
Yes, that's the good
COVID.
thing about
It's a
this one.
blessing in itself. So, I think mag-lunch break na ang mga audience
Yes.
and us, no?
Yes, Doc.
Let me remind lang po everyone to please sign in the attendance and we will be
Yes.
sending your certificates of participation your way. So, isort sa na to ang atong attendance. So, thank you everyone for
Mm.
watching and look forward to our next webinars. Next week, di ba, Sir Mac, we will
Next week,
have
we have next week.
PFA and then
The third week ka po. Third week, Doc.
next week ang COVID
Yes, after
survivor.
next week, we will have a psychological first aid for our DRM and health coordinators. Yun. Okay, Doc. Again, in behalf of the Division of Davao Oriental, we would like to thank everyone. And again, Musta na you? The webinar series of the Division of Davao Oriental in line with the Wellness and Mental Health Program.
So again, this has been Doc Kim.
And this is Mac Agent Nobi Covero, your host for this webinar. Madayao, Davao Oriental!
Thank you for watching.
Okay.